As we pause today, January 16th, 2023, to reflect on Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s work and ultimate sacrifice, please enjoy this re-premiere of his final speech performed by the Hood community. And also plan to join us on Friday, January 27th in Hudson Auditorium for a discussion of the groundbreaking Netflix documentary, Who We Are, a chronicle of racism in America.
Precious Lord, take my hand, lead me on, let me stand. I am tired, I am weak.
Something is happening in Memphis, something is happening in our world.
The nation is sick. Trouble is in the land. Confusion all around. But I know, somehow, that only when it is dark enough can you see the stars.
Something is happening in our world. The masses of people are rising up, and wherever they are assembled today, whether they are in Johannesburg, South Africa, Nairobi, Kenya, Accra, Ghana,
New York City, Atlanta, Georgia, Jackson, Mississippi, and Memphis, Tennessee.
The cry is always the same. We want to be free.
Men have been talking about war and peace, but now, no longer can they just talk about it.
it's no longer a choice between violence and nonviolence in this world. It's nonviolence or non-existence. That is where we are today.
Now we're going to march again, and we've got to march again in order to put the issue where it's supposed to be.
And we've got to say to the nation, we know how it's coming out.
For when people get caught up with that which is right, and they are willing to sacrifice for it, there is no stopping point short of victory.
We've got to see it through, and when we have our march, you need to be there.
If it means leaving work, if it means leaving school, be there.
Be concerned about your brother. We go up together or we go down together.
Let us develop a kind of dangerous unselfishness.
Let us rise up tonight with a greater readiness. Let us stand with a greater determination. We have an opportunity to make America a better nation.
You know, several years ago, I was in New York City, autographing the first book that I had written. The next minute, I felt something beating on my chest. Before I knew it, I had been stabbed. I was rushed to Harlem Hospital. That blade had gone through, and the x-rays revealed that the tip of the blade was on the edge of my aorta, the main artery. And once that's punctured, you're drowned in your own blood. That's the end of you. It came out in the New York Times the next morning that if I had merely sneezed, I would have died. Well, about 4 days later, they allowed me, after the operation, they allowed me to read some of the mail that came in, and from all over the states and the world, kind letters came in. I read a few,
But there was another letter that came from a young girl, and I looked at the letter, and I'll never forget. It said simply,
Dear Dr. King, I'm a 9th grade student at the White Plains High School. While it should not matter, I'd like to mention that I'm a white girl. I read in the paper of your misfortune and of your suffering, and I read that if you had sneezed, you would have died. And I'm simply writing to say that I'm so happy that you didn't sneeze.
I want to say tonight that I too am happy that I didn't sneeze, because if I had sneezed, I wouldn't been here around in 1960 when students all over the South started sitting in at lunch counters.
I knew that as they were sitting in, they were really standing up for the best in the American dream and taking the whole nation back to those great wells of democracy which were dug deep by the Founding Fathers in the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution.
If I had sneezed, I wouldn't have been around here in 1961 when we decided to take a ride for freedom and ended segregation in interstate travel.
If I had sneezed, I wouldn't have been around here in 1962 when Negroes in Albany, Georgia decided to straighten their backs up. And whenever men and women straighten their backs up, they are going somewhere, because a man can't ride your back unless it's bent.
If I had sneezed, I wouldn't have been here in 1963, when the black people of Birmingham, Alabama aroused the consciousness of this nation and brought into being the Civil Rights Bill.
If I had sneezed, I wouldn't have had a chance later that year in August to try to tell America about a dream that I had had.
If I had sneezed, I wouldn't have been down in Selma, Alabama to see the great movement there.
If I had sneezed, I wouldn't have been in Memphis to see a community rally around those brothers and sisters who are suffering.
I'm so happy that I didn't sneeze.
Well, I don't know what will happen now. We've got some difficult days ahead, but it really doesn't matter now because I've been to the mountaintop.
Like anybody, I would like to live a long life. Longevity has its place, but I'm not concerned about that now. I just want to do God's will. And He's allowed me to go up to the mountaintop, and I've looked over.
And I've seen the promised land. I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we, as a people, will get to the promised land.
And so I'm happy tonight. I'm not worried about anything. I'm not fearing any man.
Mine eyes have seen the glory